Hello friends, I'm Swapna Shetty. In this video, we are going to learn about MVC pattern and what are the advantages of MVC pattern. So basically, we have two JSP architectural models for developing web applications. The first one is JSP Model 1 architecture, which is also known as page-centric architecture. And second one is JSP Model 2 architecture, also known as MVC, that is Model View and Control architecture. In any web application, in a real-time online project, we need to have three different logics, namely application logic, business logic, and presentation logic. What is application logic? Application logic is nothing but receiving the request and capturing the user input, and if required, we need to perform any validation, and controlling the flow in the application is nothing but the code written for all these tasks is nothing but comes under application logic. And communicating with the database and processing the data by applying few business rules. So the code written for these tasks comes under business logic and also known as persistent logic. And creating response pages and sending relevant pages to the user comes under presentation logic. So what is the main objective of architectural models? For any application development, all the three logics should be developed independently but must be linked together. That is, if whatever technology is good at, we need to use that particular technology. For example, JSP is good at presentation, so we need to use JSP for presentation purpose, and Servlet is good at request handling. So whichever technology is good at a particular area, we have to use that technology in that area. So implementation of such process, that is divide and conquer, is the main objective of the two architectural models. In JSP Model 1, everything revolves around JSP. That is, JSP implements both application and presentation logic. And this type of applications are used only for developing small size projects, but not for developing large scale projects. In JSP Model 2, all the three logics are separated from each other. That is, mixing of the logics is eliminated and we get pure application logic, pure business logic, and pure presentation logics are developed as separate components. So this is valid for developing large scale and very large scale projects. So this is model 1 page-centric architecture. That is, JSP is responsible for capturing the user data, that is client's data, and it instantiates the bean and sets the bean with the form data. Then form will contact the database if required and gets the database results and processes the data. Then JSP will interact with the bean to get the processed data, and it creates a response page and sends the response back to the client. So accepting the user data and formulating the bean comes under application logic, and bean contacting the database and processing the data comes under business logic, and JSP contacting the bean, getting the processed data and sending response page back to the client comes under presentation logic. So this model utilizes bean in separating business logic from the other logics. So JSP is involved in handling both application and presentation logic. In model 2 architecture, that is MVC architecture, we use MVC, that is model is nothing but a bean, V is view in which we use JSP technology, and controller is nothing but a servlet. So controller first receives the user data and it instantiates the bean and formulates the bean with the form data. Then bean contacts the database if required and gets the results from the database and processes the data. Then controller will shift the control to the view. Now view will contact the bean, gets the processed data and creates a response page and sends back the response pages back to the client. So all the three logics are separated here. That is, controller is used for implementing request handling logic, that is application logic, and view is responsible for the preparing presentation logic, and bean is responsible for business logic. So all the three logics are separated in MVC architecture. So coming to the benefits of MVC, we have clear separation of layers. So that is, all the logics are separated. That is, view holds presentation logic and model holds business logic. So it is easy to maintain for a developer. And parallel development is possible, thereby reducing development time. That is, the view and model can be developed by different teams and they can be finally integrated. So this reduces the development time in the market. And MVC is highly flexible for future enhancements, like any changes like database upgradation or any change in the business logic. It is enough if we change the model without changing the view or controller. So this is the basic advantage of MVC. So let's see an example. So I just create a new dynamic project with the name MVC Sample. First I create a JSP page. In which we would have a form with username and password. Form action. So when I click on submit, the control has to go to the servlet. So I'm just naming the servlet as controller servlet. And the method I'm using is post. So I'll ask the user to enter username, that is input, type equals to text, the name of the text box is T1. Similarly, I ask the user to enter password, where I use input tag again. Type equals to password. Name equals to T2. Then I use submit button. Input. Type equals to submit. And the value is login. So this is just a form where the user enters username and the password. So the control, when user clicks on submit button, it has to go to controller servlet. So I require a servlet. In package com.educators, class name is controller servlet. So it is showing me some errors, so I need to add servlet API.jar file for that. So configure build path, add external jars, select from Tom6 lib directory, select servlet API.jar file, so that all the compile time errors are removed. So here in the do post, the servlet is responsible for taking information data first. So I just require print writer object also. So response dot set content type is text or HTML. Response dot get writer would give me print writer object. Print writer out. So which is from IO package, so import that package. Now get the data from the form, that is request dot get parameter of t1, which I'll store it in a string variable called user. Similarly, request dot get parameter of t2, in which I store in a string variable called password. I got the request data from the form. Now I need to instantiate the bean. That is, I need to have a bean first. So create a class called login bean. In which I have in a package com.executors. So this bean should implement serializable interface, in which the properties I have are username and password, private, string, username. Similarly, private, string, password. Now write the setters and getters for the properties, that is right click source, generate setters and getters, select all and click on OK. So this is the bean ready. So I would instantiate the bean first, that is login bean equals to the name of the object is bean equals to new login bean. So I would set the properties of the bean, that is bean dot set username of user. I'm instantiating the bean with the form data. Then bean dot set password with the password. Then I'm sharing the bean using attribute. So request dot set attribute of the name of the bean is bean. The name itself, value itself is the bean. So then I am calling the bean first. That is, I write a method in bean, namely validate method, which validates the password. And I get a password here, that is string password, and it returns a boolean value, that is the password is right or not. So if password dot equals, the password I'm giving it as admin, the password is admin, so I'm just returning true, else return false. So this is a method called validate in bean. So I just instantiate the bean and I would call the method called validate here, that is bean dot validate, and pass the password there. So that returns me a boolean value. So I'm just storing it in a boolean variable, that is status. Now if status is true, Then go to the login success page. So I need to write a login success page, that is JSP page. So in which first I would like to import styled page import equals to, I need to import the login bin, that is com dot educators dot login bin. Then I write a scriptlet in which I write the Java code. That is, once I get a login page, I would tell the user that you have successfully logged in, and I would just welcome the user. So for that I use a bean information, that is request dot in controller servlet set attribute I've used. So here I use request dot get attribute of bean. So this would return me a login bean. So I need to typecast since it returns an object. So I just write login bean. Then I would just say out dot print welcome bean. From bean I would get the name, that is bean dot get username. And now simply close it, that is close the scriptlet. This is my login success page. Similarly, I write a login error page. Login error in which I say sorry, username or password is wrong. And just include the page, that is percentile at include page equals to index.jsp. Okay, include the file, undefined attributes, so the attribute name is file. So in the controller servlet, if the status is true, I would transfer the control to the login success page. So I need to use request dispatcher rd equals to new request dispatcher So here, in order to get the request dispatcher object, we need to use request dot get request dispatcher of, I need to pass to the login success page. So login success.jsp. Semicolon. Say rd dot forward of request response. Similarly, if status is false, then I need to pass to login error page. Login error not JSP page. So let's run this form first. Run on server. The username I set Swapna and the password is admin. So when I say login, it says you have successfully logged in and welcome Swapna. So logged in. So just the name is T. Okay, let's try again. So run this page again, run server, and I say username is this and password is admin. So you have successfully logged in, welcome Swapna. If I give a wrong password, some ABC, then say login, it says sorry, username and password is wrong, and it is showing me the index.jsp page again. So that's all with the session. Thank you.